So let's talk about it. Sexual orientation and different types of love, different ways of loving, and love wins. I'm your host, Venus O'Hara, and I'll be accompanying you on this pathway to pleasure. So let's talk about it. Sexual orientation and different types of love, different ways of loving, and love wins. Yes, it definitely does. Love is almost always the answer. Sexual orientation is a spectrum, not a binary, and it can also evolve over time. Sexuality is fluid. It might not be for everyone. For some people, it can be very clear from a very young age and it can remain the same throughout their whole lives. Whereas for other people, it could be a bit more fluid. Perhaps you have one belief about your sexual orientation for most of your life, and then suddenly you meet someone and then you feel things that you haven't felt before, and then you start to question your sexual orientation. It can happen in so many different ways. There are so many ways to express our sexual orientations. Also, love can come in many forms. It can be romantic, it can be platonic, and self-love, of course, which I believe is the greatest love. Everything should begin with self-love. When you have a strong sense of self-love, I believe that you will make better decisions in your relationships and sexuality. And why is that? Because you will have better standards. You will honor yourself first, your boundaries, your needs, and you will have clarity on everything that you want. And that means you won't accept things that are not quite right for you. So what are the different types of sexual orientation? Well, firstly, in no particular order, heterosexual, that means you are attracted to people of the opposite sex. Homosexual, the same sex. Bisexual, male or female. Pansexual, to people of any gender. It matters, you're more into the person, doesn't matter what the gender is. And asexual, perhaps you have no sexual attraction at all. And last but not least, demisexual. A demisexual is someone who needs an emotional connection in order to feel sexual attraction. I think I'm becoming more and more demisexual as I get older. I think for me, that emotional connection is becoming more and more important. That doesn't mean it's not important for other orientations. It just means that unless there is that emotional connection, there's not going to be a sexual attraction. And there are even more sexual, and those are not the only ones. There's also a difference between sexual attraction and romantic attraction. For me, in simple terms, that would mean sexual attraction might be someone I want to have sex with, and romantic might be someone I want to plan my future with, or perhaps share romantic experiences like watching a sunset, watching a sunrise, having a romantic meal together, just cuddling perhaps. But the ideal situation is when romantic and sexual come together, and with emotional as well. Yes. For some people, sexuality, their sexual orientation can be something that's fixed throughout their lives. But for others, it could be a bit more fluid. And that can be very surprising when that happens. It kind of happened to me, actually. For example, imagine you have this belief about your sexuality that you believe for most of your life, and then suddenly, boom, you discover, you meet someone who challenges those beliefs, who opens your mind to things that you never considered before. That can be an incredibly confusing place to be. But also it can be very exhilarating and inspiring when you think you know yourself and suddenly you discover new things about yourself. I find that really exciting. But of course, the unknown can sometimes be scary, and I totally understand that. Also, having a different sexual orientation from all of your friends can also be a little bit scary. Perhaps you don't feel that you can open up to your peers about how you're feeling. I have a good friend of mine who is gay, and he told me that when he was growing up in an all-boys school in the 90s, all of the boys had Britney Spears posters on their bedroom walls. And they were like, oh, Britney, Britney, Britney. He said, but I had Shakira. That was really funny. But, you know, perhaps secretly he was, you know, desiring someone else and not really knowing how to express it. And also being worried that you're not going to be accepted by your peers. I think that's the biggest worry that people have, is not being accepted by friends and family and not knowing how to express this sexual orientation. But I think it's really important to gain clarity on what you want first of all, and then if and when you decide to share that with someone, make sure it's at a moment that you are comfortable with, and come out to a person who is a trusted person in your life who's going to accept you no matter what. For the most part, people don't really care. It's about who you are. Your sexuality is part of who you are, but it's not the essence of who you are. People will not stop loving you because of your sexual orientation. I think it's important to have, first of all, self-acceptance, and then others will accept you, hopefully. And if they don't, well, that's really sad. I've spent so much in the gay community because I spent 3 years of my own life just with women, and it was so exciting, but also a bit scary. I had what I thought was, let's say, a bi-curious attraction to someone, and then suddenly I spent time with this woman, and the experience made me challenge who I thought I was. I just didn't really expect it to go in the way it did. I ended up being a much more emotional experience than I had anticipated. It started with just a sexual curiosity, but it suddenly became romantic and emotional, and I started to actually question my sexuality, and I wanted to put a label on it. I was thinking, am I a lesbian? Am I bisexual? Am I this? Am I that? And for some people, putting a label on your sexuality or on any type of identity that you have can be very helpful. It can answer questions for you. It can actually guide you to some communities, can actually create a sense of belonging for you, and also someone who understands exactly how you're feeling. However, for other people, it can be very restricting having a label. And at the time, I was confessing to this girl that I was with that I'm feeling really confused about my sexuality. I don't know if I'm a lesbian, I don't know if I'm bisexual. But the thing was, I was only attracted to her. So other women just didn't really do it for me. I did try though, but it wasn't really the same. And she said to me at the time, "You're not a lesbian, you're not bisexual, you're just sexual." And I thought, you don't understand what I'm going through. But actually with time and, experience and hindsight, I think she was right. I just am sexual. I don't like to put a label on my sexuality because it doesn't mean that I like women and men. I just liked her, but I mostly like men, and I need an emotional connection. So what does that make me? I don't know. I'm just me. The things that helped me when I was going through this very confusing time was I started to watch series such as The L Word, which was amazing. It's a lesbian series. You probably can find it online. And it has every type of lesbian you could find or think of on there, and different types of relationships. Some that were very serious and long-term, that were trying for babies, others that were more casual, and then different expressions of some were androgynous, some were feminine. It was very eclectic, that when you think of the word lesbian or any type of word that describes a sexuality, within those identities there are other sub-identities and nuances. It's very nuanced, this world, and it was really interesting for me. It really was like discovering a whole new world. I also discovered a forum for bi-curious and bisexual and lesbian women, and I started to connect with some women on this group, and we started to go out to clubs together, and it was so amazing to have this sense of community of, oh, I'm curious, you're curious, let's all be curious and go out together. Because sometimes you need some kind of partners in crime in the nicest possible way to help you discover these worlds and these communities. Otherwise it can be kind of lonely. Also, I do believe online there are many different resources to help you explore your sexuality. And also something that really helped me, as well as the series of looking at, let's say, fictionalized lesbian identities and different relationships, was reading books as well. So there's lots of media entertainment series and also online forums, meeting people wherever you live and seeing how it all works out for you. Over that time though, I did actually go back to men in the end, but I do really look back at that time with fond memories And I'm really grateful that I had those resources and inspiration to go and explore those parts of me. I would encourage anyone to do the same. And also, if you feel that the defining yourself feels restricted, I would just maybe not define yourself. It really depends on how you feel about yourself. Also, even though it's good to come out and be supported by friends and family, also know that you don't need to explain your whole life to anyone, really. You choose what you explain to people. I think that's really important as well, because I find that sometimes in friendships, I can find it quite restricting when people want to know all about my life. I just rather tell people what I choose to tell, if you see what I mean. So yeah, that can be quite... And coming out can be something that's done in stages, and also with different people at different times. So you don't have to come out all at once if that doesn't feel safe to you. You have to do it on your timeline and not someone else's timeline. Your sexuality is yours, your identity is yours, and no one else can tell you how to express that. Only you know. So even though love and pleasure and sex are some of the most incredible things that we experience in life, coming to terms with sexual identity can be something that is very, very daunting and lonely. So if you feel those things, you're not alone in that. There are communities that can definitely help you, and lots of resources as well. So whatever your sexual orientation is, remember that love wins. Love is almost always the answer. And I would encourage you to love yourself first and foremost, and honor your own sexual orientation, and know that it can evolve over time. And if it does, it does, and if it doesn't, it doesn't. But the important thing is to be honest with yourself more than anything. And even if you don't want to fully tell everyone about your sexuality, it's important to be honest with others in the sense that not to hide your sexuality, because, in the past, let's say 100 years ago or even less, it's kind of sad when you think about how society used to be and all the shame around sexuality, and the fact that people were not able to be safe and gay or lesbian or whatever. They had to pretend to be straight and get married and have families. And I think that's really sad, especially, because you're living a lie if you do that. And also the other person that you're with is not able to fully express loving relationship because they're with someone who doesn't really desire them, really. They're just kind of, just doing it to keep up with societal pressure, which is really sad. But we're not in that situation anymore in most parts of the world. There are still parts of the world where it's very difficult or even illegal to be gay. So that's why it's important to celebrate things like Pride, and also respect and accept people for whatever sexuality that they have, because some people are not able to express that. And I do believe that authenticity is the path. Authenticity and self-love are so essential for happiness in our lives. So it's a very tricky topic, but all in all, love is love, and love always wins. If you are questioning your sexuality, I wish you lots and lots of good luck with that. And also, I hope you have some trusted friends around you who are able to support you through this process. And if you have any tips on any of the topics raised, don't hesitate to leave a comment below. Thanks for watching, and you can find our products on our website, tracysdog.com, and on Amazon.